Hello and welcome to Sunseeker. My name is James Lumley. I'm the sales manager here at Sunseeker in Southampton. We're based at Swanwick Marina here on the Hamble River. And today we're going to take you through the Manhattan 55 and the Manhattan 68. They're behind me here in the water. Both boats finished in a custom shadow grey hull band. 55 Manhattan here, and across the water there, the slightly larger Big Brother 68 Manhattan. Now these are great entry levels into our range. This is the smallest flybridge yacht that we build, and today we're going to take both boats off the dock as these are true owner-operator boats. So that'll be myself and a crew, a chance to take them off, see how the controls handle, and then the differences as we move then up to the 68 Manhattan and how that is still very much the owner-operator option. Now these boats also have crew. This has a single crew as an option and the 2 beds in the back on the 68 Manhattan. So for those that do want to have professional onboard help, there is that option as well. So for now, let's head on over and take a look at the boats. So behind me here, let's start off with the 55 Manhattan. So this is just over 17 metres long, fits really nicely on a finger pontoon here in a marina such as Swanwick. Let's go on board and take a look around. You'll see on the back here we have a hydraulic high-low bathing platform. This lifts up to 450 kilos, so something around a Williams 325 jet tender is a good option, or a Sea-Doo Spark lightweight 2-seater jet ski. In the back there is a single berth crew cabin, a small bathroom, or for those of you as an owner-operator, it's a nice place to store all the equipment that you carry on board. As we come up here into the cockpit, this particular boat not fitted with it, we have the option on the back for a beach club. That's a seat, a barbecue and a lift-up shower in this locker here. You'll notice as we come on, we're coming up a number of steps. This is giving us the volume inside. She's a shaft drive boat. That means the engines are in the back here, and we have the D13 800 horsepower engines on shaft drive. It's a great boat at sea. They do around 30 knots flat out, cruising really 20 to 24 knots, and we have a range of around 250 nautical miles. So up here in the cockpit, we have this currently configured in its open plan layout. So there's a glass window that lifts and falls here into the deckhead underneath the bar top, to allow you to enclose the boat. So it works really well for our weather here in the UK where it's changing all the time. There is of course an aft curtain that encloses the back end of the flybridge here to give you the best of both worlds depending on what the weather's doing. So over the last 10 years, a big trend in yachting is to bring the galley up here onto main deck. And you can see now how that works really nicely. We've got a flow from the saloon here, we've got a converting table we'll have a look at just a sec, but also through to the exterior areas on the boat. It allows you to dine in the back cockpit, you can go upstairs to use the flybridge. It's a very, very versatile area. We will have all the typical appliances in here. We have a larger 17.5 kilowatt generator, so that gives you onboard cooking, everything is electric. And across here we have some great features of things like the full-size refrigeration drawers and a freezer as well. The wood finish on this particular boat, we have a satin high sheen figured eucalyptus, and then we have a silver oak, so two-tone wood gives a really nice blend in here. Come on forward. Again, we come up a little bit more in the steps, gives the increased volume downstairs for the master cabin, and we have this main one area saloon. It also doubles up as a dining space, and you'll see the table currently set up here as a coffee table, and we'll do a little quick fast forward and we'll convert that up into a dining space. So there you have it. We now have a configured saloon with dining, and we could put a couple of directors' chairs here to give you comfortable seating for 6 or maybe 8 at a push. Across on this side, this is a custom for this particular yacht. The standard configuration here would be with the TV on display with a sideboard, but as we've seen most common here in the UK, we have the option now with a chaise. The 55-inch optional TV is in a high-low box here over on the starboard side, makes it very clean and clinical in here, and you maintain the view out through the side windows. Coming forward, obviously key on a flybridge boat with the changing weather is the ability to drive inside. This one, we have a beautiful, lovely panoramic window here. We still have the mesh covers on, as you can see on the outside. Lots of natural light in here. Opening side window, dual bench seat, and then all the array of typical navigation equipment you'd see both here and repeated upstairs on the flybridge. So we have 2 16-inch Simrad multifunction displays down here. This particular boat has a Zenta joystick system, an open array 4-foot radar scanner, and a whole host of other equipment. We mentioned AV briefly earlier. This particular boat being upgraded with a PepWave onboard router allows you to stay communicating with the shore when you're away at open sea. Let's come on down and see the cabins. So here we're up in the bow of the boat. So this is the second cabin, or the VIP guest cabin forward, island double bed in the middle. Behind me here, as part of that AV package, you have a 43-inch TV upgrade, again with its own AV system up in the ceiling. Some practical touches either side with wardrobe, cupboard storage and high-level locker boxes either side of the bed. It's a very practical guest cabin. We have lovely white up above us with the forward escape hatch, and then a Jack and Jill arrangement here to the second bathroom on the boat. So this allows direct access from this cabin, or you can see with the second door also directly off the lobby here for dayhead use, as well as servicing the third cabin across the hallway. Full separate shower stall, and as you can see, vacuum flush toilet and all the attributes you'd expect in a bathroom. So this is cabin number 3, the twin berth guest cabin. As you can see, we have a 24-inch TV up on the forward bulkhead, a good sized wardrobe and some high level storage above the window. So we now come down, we're in the master cabin. This is really the centerpiece of the boat, obviously for an owner operator. We have a private ensuite, pretty much mirror image of that forward heads that we saw earlier, and then the cabin itself. So full beam, as you can see here, with these beautiful picture frame style windows, centerline island bed. We have the storage over here on the port side, and to starboard we have the upgrade, as you can see here, with the 2 seats and the breakfast table. Wardrobe in the corner here, an abundance of shelves, and a 55-inch TV no less there on the forward bulkhead. So having had a look through the boat, we're now going to take her off the dock so you can see what she's like in close quarters, real time. So today I have one crew, as that's typically how I would see an owner operator using a boat like this. We will untie the lines, take her off the dock, out a short run here on the river, a chance then to have a look around with the drone from a few different angles, and then we'll bring her back in alongside to give you a feel of what the coming and going alongside a mooring is typically like. Okay, so we're now going to leave the dock. So my crew's down on the pontoon beneath us. So you're going to take the bow line off first, and then we'll be away. So the wind, as you can see on the flags, is pushing us off the dock. We're going to use that to help us in the manoeuvre. So as we take the lines off, the boat will start to drift away, and we'll just engage some gentle throttle. We'll be able to rotate the boat on the engines. We have proportional bow and stern thrusters that gives us the ability to manipulate the boat in addition to those big propellers. We're going to turn the boat through 90 degrees, out down the channel here, and hopefully away. Now today we won't be taking our ropes and fenders off. If we were going to open sea, everything would stow nicely into the anchor locker up forward. And as you can see here at the flybridge helm, which is my preference generally for most close quarters manoeuvring, I've got a great view from the front all the way down the starboard side here, down the stairs here. I can just about see the aft end of the bathing platform. So really, if I'm coming into a mooring on this side, whether forwards or backwards, I've got the ability to do that almost on my own. But with a good crew, they can talk me in. If it was to come in on the blind side, it still gives us confidence to know what we're doing. Now we do have some tide here at Swanwick, not running so hard at the moment, we're almost on the low today. We do have to watch as we turn sideways in the tide in the river here that doesn't affect us in a negative way. We can obviously allow for it with our controls, but today we just need to be aware it will start to run later on. Okay, so the bow's now off. Obviously with the wind holding us, we don't need to worry. Some days we might put the proportional thrusters on to hold us on the dock while we take the lines off. We're now off at the back and we're ready to go. So we don't do any of our close quarters manoeuvring here on the wheel. We're literally just going to engage the throttles, nice and gentle, and take the boat off the dock. Now I can use my thrusters here now just to take the boat out in a parallel manoeuvre. I can see that back corner. Don't want to turn too early as we'll catch the platform on the pontoon. As you can see, we have a bit of space in front. This is quite a tight berth, not very common for perhaps a private owner to be somewhere like this, but it's handy to know the boat can do it if you need. The throttles have a very small delay from forward, neutral, reverse, but they are electronic fly-by-wire and as such one finger in and out of gear. Just using a slight bow thruster there just to help the nose round. And once we're clear on the stern, we'll be able to spin the boat 90 degrees and we'll be away. So thrusters are proportional. That means the more power you want, the more you push the stick, and the faster the boat will move. Generally, most close quarters manoeuvre is just on single throttle at a time. When we're ready, we can engage both and the boat will set off. Now we do around 5 to 6 knots in tick over, and as such we do have to be careful, certainly in the confines of somewhere like the marina, though we don't rock around the moored boats around us. So you'll see I'm just working the boat out with one throttle and then the other. And now we have some water flow under the rudders, we can start to use the steering. The seats have this option either to lift up in a bolster position or drop them down into more of a seat style for longer distance passage making. There is an acrylic screen here on the helm. This comes up to give you wind protection if you're out in open sea. And as you can see, a nice big screen forward of us to keep the spray off on a windy day. Now at this point, generally your crew will be stowing your ropes and fenders. getting the boat ready for sea, and from somewhere like Swanwick we have a run of around 25 minutes down to open water at the bottom of the Hamble River. We're just joining the main channel here in front of us, so we're just going to check ahead that there's no boats coming, and then we'll perform a 90-degree turn using the engines. So in order to turn the boat, we can obviously use the steering wheel to a point, but on this particular example, I'm just going to show you what happens with one ahead, one astern, little bit of throttle just to help stop that momentum, and you'll see how that boat rotates round almost on its own axis. Very, very simple. And once we're ready to start the manoeuvre, we come back into neutral, the boat settles down, we can put both engines into ahead, and we're away. So we're now in the main navigating channel. This is around 25 minutes, as we say, down to open water. It's a good chance to let the engines warm up so that once you're out to open sea, the speed limit ends, you can open the throttles and get the boat up onto the plane. Now we're about 4.87 metres beam, 17.2 metres length overall. We weigh about 27 tonnes and we carry 2,200 litres of fuel. Typical cruise speed on the boat is running around 200 to 250 litres an hour, and that gives you plenty of capacity for going perhaps across the channel, around 100 miles to northern France, 120 miles to Channel Islands. Does mean that a week away on the south coast here is very much within the realms of capability of a boat like this. Obviously with 3 cabins, you have the ability to take friends and family away with you, but equally lots of the couples we sell these to just use them with the 2 of them on board. You're seeing I'm just knocking the throttles in and out of gear to maintain that speed. This is my speed here on the chart plotter, so we're just staying under the 6-knot limit. Multi-function displays, so these are 2 12-inch colour chart plotters. We also have a 4-foot 72 nautical mile open array radar. We have an autopilot control. We have the thrusters we saw earlier, trim tab. There's a DSC VHF handset to go in here, and then this actual boat has the joystick system as well. So this is a Zenta system, so this is using the throttle and thruster controls for close quarters. If you're not so comfortable with all the controls you've seen me using today, it does allow you to bring everything into the single joystick. On the wheel here, as a part of the Simrad upgrade pack, you can see the buttons, and that, as well as the hybrid touchscreen in front of us, we have the ability to control the screens off the wheel. Very nice on a lumpy day to make life a little easier. Okay, so we're just heading back into Swanwick Marina just to run you through a few more facts and figures about a 55 Manhattan. Now this boat is actually available at the moment. They start from just under £1.5 million ex-tax with the larger D13 800 horsepower shaft drive engines. This particular boat's about £1.86 million ex-tax, and she's pretty loaded up with everything bar a gyro. Now if you want a stabiliser, and here in the UK certainly 1 in 2 boats, it's considered an option. That would be a Seakeeper 6. It's a washing machine sized box, fits down in the engine room, and that gives the ability for low speed stabilisation. A lot of our boating here on the south coast is from one marina to another, and as such, it's not something that's critical, albeit is a nice to have. Tender wise, if you do choose a gyro, the suggestion is to reduce the capacity of the bathing platform. The hydraulic lift will be up to 450 kilos, but if you take the gyro, the suggestion is to reduce to 150 kilos. So that takes it from something like a Williams 325 jet tender to a lightweight Sueur with maybe a 25 horsepower outboard engine. Now we're just about to make our turn back down the channel to our mooring, and the tide is now still on its second run, so that means it's starting to ebb out of the river. So we just have the tide coming from what will be our left to right down the channel, and we have the wind from our right to the left. So we do just need to be careful as we do our docking manoeuvre to take those outside factors into account. Quick look over the shoulder to check no boats and paddle boards are coming, and then we'll be able to start our manoeuvre. Handy feature on the autopilot control here, we have a rudder angle indicator, so I can level that up and you can see that's now almost in the straight ahead position. So there are various different ways of carrying out with this manoeuvre. We could actually turn around in the main river channel here and reverse all the way down. But this time we're going to come in forwards, turn the boat, stern into the wind, and then reverse into our mooring when we get down the end. The river flow is the hardest in the central channel. It eases off as we get nearer to the riverbank. And a nice thing at somewhere like Swanwick, as you see here, is the finger pontoons are pretty much the same length as the boat. That means basically you can go into the mooring either way round. Quite handy if you've got a tender on the back and you want to get that into the water easily, or perhaps the privacy away from people walking up and down the dock, you can come in forwards. Or for those that want an easy departure, it's best to stern in and then you can get straight out and away next time you come down to the boat. Now there's a timeout function on my thrusters, so I'm just going to power those back up. I always like to just give everything a quick test to make sure it's working. But once we get back into port. So as we come into the berth here, I'm going to get my crew to step off from the stern. As the decks on modern boats have got much higher, we tend to do most of our deck work from the back. So he'll step off and then he'll tie up the stern line and then he'll walk down the pontoon alongside the boat to take the bow line. And then we can get safely tied up, shore power plugged in and move across to the slightly bigger boat. Now there are different ways to do this. You could stay sat down. I like to turn around and face the direction that I'm actually going. So as such, I'm just going to spin round and do everything here now with my left hand. Just a little help from the thrusters there to get a bit of sideways manoeuvring. As you can see, the wind is pulling us away from the dock. I've still got control with my propellers. So I'm just using a little bow thruster here to help the boat up against the wind. And great visibility from the helm up here. I can see all the way from the bow right down the starboard deck to the aft quarter. So we're now safely alongside and we have a function on the thrusters which allows us to engage automatic thrust, and that's now going to push the boat over and hold it onto the pontoon against the wind. It's proportional, so the more power we give it, the more it will stay against the dock. If I was then short-handed, I could actually now leave the helm and I could go down and perform any rope tying assistant to my crew. With the stern line on, the boat's not going anywhere now, and we've got several minutes of thrust really before the batteries get hot and we need to consider turning the system off. With a single crew, my preference is always to stay at the helm. If anything's going wrong, I've got full control of everything. We could always go back out and come back in again. You can see he's just stepped off and he's up on the front there now, just securing the bow to the dock. As soon as we've got the line on, we can turn the thrusters off, power down the boat, and we're in. So I've turned my thrusters off. We're now safely in. He's just going to put the spring lines on. Let's power down the boat and move on to the next one. Okay, so we now move across from the 55 Manhattan to the 68 Manhattan. So as we say, this is the big brother. We gain a cabin, so now it's 4 genuine cabins, 3 bathrooms, 2 crew in the back. We move up to 2 1,200 horsepower MAN V8 engines. She's 4 meters longer, 39 centimeters wider, around 10 tons heavier, and she really is an awesome piece of kit. Still very much in the realms of an owner-operator. So again, we're going to take this one off the dock, but to begin with, let's go and have a little look around. So as you can see here, moored up on a 21 metre finger berth, fits into the UK marinas, as you can see. Across the back, we're cutting some pictures. There's 2 longitudinal crew beds in there with their own bathroom. There's a lift up hatch in the back here with some storage and a 450 kilo lifting capacity platform on the back for up to a Williams 395 jet tender. Now we move away from the gyro Seakeeper system for stabilisation on the 55. This has a CMC AC powered fin stabiliser. They're a 0.87 metre fin, curved vector shape, and that gives you then stabilisation underway as well as 0 speed at anchor. So let's come up into the cockpit. Okay, so we have a conventional aft cockpit with the centre U-shaped seating, the lovely fixed teak top table and some space for directors' chairs, perhaps some bean bags. It's quite a social area connected well with the water. We have a sliding door arrangement here with lots of different accesses, so we can slide these across. And on a nice day, open the boat right up. As we saw on the 55 Manhattan, we have the aft galley set up. There are a couple of different configurations in here in terms of width and galley worktop layout, different styles of dining, and as you can see on this one, we have a fixed top table, and then we have a small island here in the middle. Now coming in, this is the eucalyptus satin sheen finish on the wood, no two-tone in this particular one, and then we've got the silver oak on the floor. Now the main difference here is now the separate access for the master cabin down to the midships here, and then we have 3 guest cabins forward. It's a very social space up here, obviously with beautiful LED lighting up in the ceiling and these lovely big panoramic glass windows all around. We have a fixed 55-inch TV here, and again, as we saw on the 55, the electric rise and fall table with the opening top to give the versatility of something different when you're in more of a lounge and informal seating. As we come forward, as we saw on the 55, a double helm seat with all of the nav equipment, 16-inch screens down here and 16-inch up on the top. On the 55 we have 12-inch upstairs, 16 down, so small changes such as that as we work through the boat. So as we come forward, we have 3 cabins downstairs. This is cabin number 2, VIP guests forward here. We have the centerline island double, the hatch up top and lots of wardrobe and storage space. 43-inch TV up on the bulkhead here, again with a PEPWave router system for onboard communication. We have a Sonos AV system and plenty of handy storage for time on board. So an ensuite dedicated heads compartment for the VIP guest cabin. So these 2 cabins are mirror image and they are both configured with the twin bed arrangement. They share a bathroom as well as doubling up as a day head here over on the starboard side. We have an AV system as we've seen throughout the rest of the cabins and very tastefully finished in these natural colours. So moving up from the 55 to the 60, often it's a growing family, and a nice thing is then a private access here, as we mentioned earlier in the tour, to the master stateroom. So let's come on down and have a look. So 5.26 metres beam. Now that is vast. Down here, as you can see, really nice expansive master stateroom. We have these lovely picture frame windows, you can see framed with the eucalyptus, LED lighting behind. Several different configurations here on the port side. This particular one with the single seat, the desk arrangement and storage. There's some options here for a chaise or perhaps 2 seats and a breakfast style table as we saw on the 55 earlier. Now we have an AV system, much the same as the rest of the boat, 55-inch TV there. We have some storage all the way down the starboard side, the centerline bed in the middle, and then looking forward we have the private owner's heads compartment. So up here on the foredeck, there are some major changes. On the 55 Manhattan, as you can see, we have a U-shaped seating. We have now a separate sunpad, lift up backrest here, centerline, and then we have the seating with the fixed table and the Bimini sun protection if required. Up front, we have 90 metres and 40 kilo anchor as the upgrade. On this one, we run 60 metres and a 25 kilo anchor. Handy as you do spend a lot of time anchoring here on the south coast. So we're now up on the flybridge, and the major change on this particular boat, as you can see above me, we have the optional opening hardtop. So this is a fiberglass structure. We have this retracting center soft panel. It allows the sun or the rain protection as required. On the aft end, we then have a patio style awning to give protection. This particular one configured with the dining and the aft seating as an optional extra to give a lot more versatility The standard arrangement is clear deck space to put some sun loungers up here if required. You can see we've got a fully equipped wet bar, the dual helm seats as we saw on the 55, and this lovely social seating area with the sun pad forward. On the 55 Manhattan, you have two bimini arrangements, either with a manual, a hydraulic, or the optional hardtop if required. So having had a look around, now let's take her out, see how she compares with the visibility and the close quarters manoeuvring performance against the 55. Okay, so we're set up for departure, much the same as the slightly smaller boat, but we are on MAN 1200 horsepower V8 engines. So they run a little bit faster, bigger propellers, and our close quarters manoeuvring as such. We just need to be a little bit more careful. Our thrusters are more powerful, which is quite handy on a windy day. As you can see with the flags, everything's starting to pick up. It is quite windy here, but not a problem for a boat like this. So we've just taken the bow line off, and in a sec you'll hear the crew give us the all clear from the back, and we can take her off and away. As we saw on the earlier boat, we have the visibility all the way down the starboard side here, and I can see the back end as required. I'm now just going to use my thrusters to help us off berth, and as soon as I've got the wind onto the nose, we can use that to our advantage to help in this tight manoeuvre. So much the same as you saw on the 55, just manipulating the throttles, alternating one and in out to gear. It gives us the ability to rotate the boat. We do have to be aware, obviously being a taller boat, we're now more affected by the wind than the slightly lower profile 55. We also have the hard top above, which will give us an effect to a certain degree as well. So why would you move up to a 68 Manhattan over something like a 55? Perhaps you've got a growing family, you need the extra fourth cabin. Perhaps you're at a point where you'd like the crew space on the back, maybe not to run the crew 24/7, but a nice option. Perhaps you're going away on holiday to the West Country or over to the Channel Islands to take some crew with you to keep life as simple on board as possible. The cabin arrangement as itself is configured with 2 double and 2 twin cabins. We have 3 bathrooms downstairs, and a main deck galley arrangement much the same on both boats. As we come out into the river, as we saw earlier, we should just do exactly the same in terms of a 90-degree turn, and then we're into the main channel and we'll be off down to the little pool area here for a chance to see what the boat's like with the drone. Knocking that port engine into a stern doesn't make much difference to begin with, but a little bit on the RPMs there just slows down the forward momentum, and you'll see the boat now rotating, and I can ease that power off now that we have the rotational motion in process, and we are away. Drop them back into neutral, just allow everything to settle, and we're off. We now have some water flow under the rudders. I can take over on the wheel, and we have the ability now to steer in the channel. The wind right on the nose, and if we wanted to, we could now go downstairs, switch control to the lower helm, and drive the boat in the warmth and comfort. This particular boat is upgraded, so we have the single 27 kilowatt generator, 17.5 kilowatts as the upgrade on the 55. And that's an important consideration on a yacht such as this, where you are running stabilisation a lot of the time. The 0-speed fin system allows use both at slow speed, at anchor, and when underway. Okay, so we're just coming back up the main channel, and we're going to take a right here, back down towards our home berth. Again, the wind will be blowing hard here on the starboard side as we come around, so we're going to have to maintain some way to give us some steerage. Staying fairly tight here on the back corner of this boat. I'm just pausing occasionally and putting a little bit of hard revs into reverse just to bring the boat upwind. I want to be on this side of the channel so that when we start the turn in such a short while, we'll be able to manoeuvre the boat round with enough space to stick the stern back into the corner facing up the river. I could do a lot of this with my thrusters, but I like to keep the power of my thrusters available for our close quarters manoeuvring, as they are electric thrusters on both these boats, and as such, if you're over enthusiastic with them, eventually you will overheat them. So I'm just slowing the boat down gently there, bring her to a stop, manoeuvre her back into the place where I want her, and then I'll let the weather assist us in bringing her in. So at this point I can stand up and I can see a little bit more down the back. Keep my nose nice and tight here to give us sufficient room on the back. We just spin the camera around, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. The nose of that Predator 60 there. So we've now made our turn, we're almost nose into the wind, so I can square the boat up, start to reverse her into the mooring. I don't want to bring my stern round too much, because if my bow comes over here to starboard, the wind will get hold of us and try and take us away back out the direction we've come. So I'm trying to keep my nose up into the wind at all times. I'm just walking the stern of the boat across. When I put the starboard engine into a stern, that brings the back of the boat over this way, and a little touch on the bow thruster just to square things up. And I'm just going to have a quick look over the side to see how much space we've got. So we're about 1.5 meters off the dock. So I can see all the way down the back here, so I can see my aft corner of the bathing platform. It's quite handy to know when to stop. And we can feel the fenders just gently kiss the pontoon there. The crew's now off, and we can engage the function to hold the thrusters on the dock as we did earlier. And if you just have a look over the side there with the camera, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So the boat weighs 37 tonnes versus 27 tonnes on the 55, and as such there's a lot more bulk. It does mean you've got a little bit more time to start planning those manoeuvres, but when the wind does get hold of it, there's a lot more momentum there to stop. So the stern is now safely tied on. He's just finishing off on the bow. I'm still using my thrusters to hold the boat onto the pontoon. I could leave the helm if I needed to now. There is an option for a third station control back in the cockpit, quite a handy thing, certainly in the Mediterranean style stern to docking. Or the option on something like this is again to have a full remote control, dockmate or yacht controller style system. This one, we have the Rexroth Aventix joystick, so this is different to what we saw on the Zenta on the 55. It performs the same function using again throttle and thruster controls if you're not comfortable with using all of this. For me, my preference is the ability to manipulate it a little bit more confined with this sort of thing, but I'm on boats a lot more than our typical client. So we're now tied up, I can knock the thrusters off, the boat is finished, and we'll leave it there. So there you have it, 2 boats out on the water, chance to have a look around both and see how they compare. Which one would you choose? Now I think there's definite similarities, but there are some huge differences. If you need that 4th cabin, perhaps you need the additional crew, perhaps it's just onboard social space, or a little bit better seakeeping, for sure the 68 offers a huge amount of boat. That said, for me, round here, certainly on the south coast, the 55 fits into our marinas. It's a great starter in the range, and for many people, that's as big as they'll ever go here in the UK. Typical on the water prices, 55 Manhattan with a typical UK spec is around £1.86 million ex-tax. This 68, as you see her here, is about £3.275 million. Obviously a big disparity, but lots of choice here. And if you'd like to know more, please do get in touch to one of your Sunseeker London reps for a little bit more info.